83a, Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. There's 10 lines from the bottom, and we're in the middle of going through a whole slew of things that one is liable for by serving in the Beis Hamikdash in an incorrect way. So, most recently, we started talking about something called tevel. Tevel is the produce that you have not yet taken off your truma. Truma take off either biblically a little bit or rabbinically 1/40th, 1/50th, or 1/60th of your produce. And until you do that, the food has a status, the produce has a status called tevel. And that we said you learn out from truma. You learn out from the fact that someone who ate truma when he was tamei, there it says umeisubo ki yechaleluhu. Someone who eats truma when they are kohen, eats truma when they're tamei, when they're impure, is liable for death in the hands of heaven. So too, a regular person who eats tevel, it's like zera shava from there. Then we asked, why learn from there? Learn from nosar. Learn from nosar is the food that's the korban that's left over overnight, becomes prohibited to you. You eat that, then you'll be liable for kares. So why not learn from that? We said no, they're more similar. Tevel and truma are more similar to each other for a whole slew of similarities. Now, we're by Adrabah. Say no, maybe nosar. The prohibition of nosar is actually very similar to the prohibition of tevel. Why? Minosar habale lemela. See where we are, George? Yeah. That 70 lines from the bottom. 83a at the very end. The word adrabah minosar habale lemela. About to be at a new part. So learn from nosar. Shekain. Why? Shekain psul ochel and ein lo heter b'mikvah. So what do these mean? Nosar is both nosar and tevel are both prohibitions where something happened to the food that it became puzzle. Nosar was left overnight. Tevel we haven't taken. Oh, early surprise.
Yeah.
Go back and come back. How are you? You just drove nationally tonight? No. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, they're picking that rhythm in the
Oh, wow, amazing. So nosar and tevel are both things that are psul, make the food invalid. But truma, it's on the person. A person themselves who's tamei, he can't eat truma. So you see that tevel and nosar are more similar to each other. Also, tevel and nosar, you can't purify them in the mikvah. But a kohen who's tamei, who eats truma, he's impure. He can go to the mikvah and become pure. So maybe tevel and nosar are more similar to each other than tevel to a kohen who eats truma that when he's impure. Really, you should learn out from nosar, and you should get death in the hands, and you should get kares instead of misa bidei shamayim. Yeah, things that you leave overnight, the korbanos that you leave overnight. Yeah. So okay, so we say no hanach nefishin. Okay, but there's more similarities between a kohen who eats truma b'tuma and who eats it when he's impure, and tevel. Therefore, you're not from tevel. That's one answer. So, and Ravina Amar Chil Derabba Michil Derabba Adif. Ravina says the word yechalaluhu, to profane, is in the plural when it comes to a kohen who serves b'tuma and when he's impure, and by someone who eats tevel. Those words are more similar because they're both in the plural, yechalaluhu. But by nosar, it's only in the singular. So if you want to learn out from one, learn out from the ones that is more similar in terms of its wording. Fine. So at the end of the day, one who eats tevel is liable for death in the hands of heaven because he learns it out from a kohen who is tamei, who is impure, who eats truma. That kohen who eats truma is going to be the source for a lot of these halachas. We're going to learn out from there. That's the example. We're going to learn from there to other cases. Fine. Next case. Last case of 83a. The kohen tamei shachal truma tahora minalan. How do you know that a kohen tamei that eats truma tahora is liable to death in the hands of heaven? So you have a kohen You have a Aaron the Kohen, and he became impure. He touched a dead body, whatever it was, and now he's impure. And he goes home for dinner, and his wife serves him fresh truma. Yeah, delicious truma. So the problem is he's impure. So he can't eat it. How do you know that? How do I know this? As the verse says in Vayikra Chaf Beis, the Shamru es Mishmarti, the Kohanim have to guard my guardings. Velo Yisrael av chet. So guard that which is which is holy, referring to truma. Velo Yisrael av chet. And you shouldn't bear sin. And then the end of the verse, which is not quoted in the Gemara, says, and if you don't do that, and you don't guard it, and you do eat it, umei subo, then you'll die. Ki chalaluhu, because you profane that which is holy. So, yeah, tahora in, tamea lo. So it's only if it's truma tahora. It's only if it's truma tahora are you going to be liable for. What if the truma became tmeya? So the Kohen is impure and the truma becomes impure. So now what happens? So it sounds like only if an impure Kohen eats pure truma, but if he were to eat impure truma, so then he would not be liable. Yeah. So the Amar Shmuel Amar Rabbi Lezer Minayin LeKohen Tamish Akol Truma Tmeya She'eno B'Misa. How do I know he's not liable for death? Shenemar Umei Subo Ki Yichaleluhu. So Umei Subo, so he's going to die. Why? Because he profaned it. Meaning you had to have taken something and profaned it. But if it's already profaned, already not Kodesh, turning the page, Prat lezu shemichuleles ve'omedes. This is coming to exclude something which is already mechuleles. The word Kodesh is sanctified, holy. The word chilul is the exact opposite. So, profaned or mundane, or to mechal something is to remove its sanctity. A halal by a Kohen is the same idea. So okay, so fine. Next case in that long list was a zar, so a regular Yisrael who goes to the Kohen's house for the Purim Suda, and the Kohen serving truma. And if the zar would eat that, he'll be liable to death in the hands of heaven. So even on Purim, right? Even on Purim. So I feel a bit Purim. Yeah. So no, because you just look at Kohen, so he thinks it's okay. Yeah, it's not okay. Looks like we're going to Steve's for Purim. Okay. So Amar Rav Zar Shalchas Truma Loka. Rav says a zar that eats truma gets malchus. He gets lashes. Amri Rav Kahana Rav Asi the Rav. Lema Mar B'Misa. Why you say lashes? Say he gets killed. V'kol zar lo yochal kodesh. Ani Hashem mikacham. So it says. So it's interesting. In that verse, it says. So there's the verse in Vayikra, in the 22nd chapter. The ninth verse is talking about what we just said, eating truma when it's tameh. Then the next verse says, "V'kol zar lo yochal kodesh." So the verse following, the verse talking about truma, that if you eat it, you get killed. The next verse is, and if a non-Kohen eats it, something. So we're asking him, why don't you learn just like a Kohen who's tameh, who eats truma gets killed, so to a zar, a non-Kohen, should also get killed. So he said, "Hifsik ha'inyan." The Torah, it said someone who eats truma gets killed. That's one verse. The next verse then talks about a non-Kohen eating truma. So it sounds like it didn't include that in the previous verse because it followed it, didn't precede it. Therefore, he doesn't get killed. Rather, it's a regular negative prohibition, and therefore he'll get malchus. He'll get lashes. It says in the Brisa, the elu hein shebemisa, and one of them is zar ha'ochel, the truma. So the Brisa explicitly says against Rav that a non-Kohen who eats truma is going to be killed in the hands of heaven, same as a Kohen who's tameh who eats truma. So that's a kasha and Rav. Rav said malchus, but the Brisa, Rav's in Amora. The Brisa comes before him. It's from Tanaic sources. You can't argue on that. So says the Gemara, Masnisa Adirav Karamis. You're asking a brisa against Rav, even though Rav, he was a first generation Amora, so he really was like in the transition stage from the end of the Tanaim to the beginning of the Amoraim. But every so often, the Gemara says that Rav Tanahu Upali, even though Rav was a first generation Amora, but every so often he was allowed to argue on the Tanaim. He really was like at the end of the Tanaim, the beginning of the Amoraim, and he had a certain stature that he was allowed to. So if you find Rav arguing against the Mishnah, not always do you pull this out of your back pocket, but sometimes you do. You have to know when. Okay. So, two opinions about a non-Kohen who eats Truma. Is it death in the hands of heaven, or is it Malchus? We're like 7-8 lines down on 83b. Zar Shishimish. Now, what about a non-Kohen who goes and serves in the Beis Hamikdash? So, there it's explicit. Dixiv, the Hazara Karev Yumas. A non-Kohen who goes to serve in the Beis Hamikdash, he gets killed. He gets killed. Now, just remember that we said it on the beginning of 83a, at the very beginning, there's two types of service. There's a service that has a service that comes afterwards, and there's the last service of its group. There's like, setting up the table to put the bread on it, lechem upon him, and there's the final stage of putting the bread on it. Or there's, the accepting the blood, maybe walking it over. And there's the bringing the korban on the altar. So the only one you're really chayiv misa for is the last, like bringing the korban. Not every single service in the Beis Hamikdash are you chayiv misa. Fine. That was 83a, the first line. If you want to spend time reviewing, that's where it is. Okay. What about an impure Kohen who goes and serves in the Beis Hamikdash? Rabbi asked Rav Yosef, how do I know that a impure Kohen who serves in the Beis Hamikdash that he gets killed? So Hashem is talking to Moshe, saying, tell Aaron and his children that they have to be very careful and not profane my service. Meaning, don't come in when you're impure. So says the Gemara, it says there, V'lo yichalalu, v'yalev chilul chilul mitruma. And we learn Xer Shava from Truma of an impure Kohen who eats Truma, just like Malahalan b'misa, Afkan b'misa, just like he gets killed. So says the Gemara, we're going to see this already a few more times. Every time you want to learn from Truma and you get death in the hands of heaven, learn from Nosar. Learn from someone who leaves over the korban overnight, and I believe, and then he eats it. Either he leaves it overnight, or he actually has to eat it. I don't remember exactly which one it is. There's a prohibition to leave it overnight, but I don't know if the kares is for leaving it or for eating it. I don't know. Just look it up. So learn from Nosar. So malahal and kares, afkan kares. So now it's just interesting, right? You have a chance. You have 3 extra words. One by a Kohen who is impure, who serves in the Beis Hamikdash. It says the word yichaluhu over there. You profane my service. By a Kohen who's impure, who eats truma. There it says you also profane my service, and you get killed. So you can learn from there. And by nosar, when it comes to leaving over the korbanos, it says also the word chilul over there, and there it's kares. So now, from which one do you learn from? From Truma or from Nosar? You're learning Xer Shava from one of them. Which one is more logical to learn from? How do you decide that? So it seems like in our Gemaras, the one that it's more similar to, that's the one you learn from. Well, why is it more similar? So, Mistabra, it's logical that Truma Habe Lemela, a Kohen who is impure, who eats Truma, is more similar to a Kohen who's impure, who serves in the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Shekain Guf Tameh. So they're both talking about the person's body, whereas the Nosar is talking about the food, the object. Tameh, they're both impure. Mikvah, because they're both impure, they both have a solution. They can go to the mikvah. Nosar, it's stuck. If it's left overnight, no solution. And birabim, the word chilul in both of the sections of the Torah, that either the Kohen that served when he's impure or the Kohen that ate Truma when he's impure, the word chilul, which is our Xer Shava word, is written in the plural. They're both the word, even the words themselves are more similar By nosar, it says the word chil in the singular. So because of those similarities, that's what we learn from truma. Says the Gemara, Adarabba, say the opposite. Mean nosar, learn from nosar. Why? They also have similarities. What are their similarities? Shekain kodesh pnim, a kohen that serves in the Beis Hamikdash is involved with sacrificial offerings inside, meaning inside the Beis Hamikdash, versus truma. Truma is not inside the Beis Hamikdash; it's on your dining room table. Also, pigel the nosar. So also involved in your sacrificial offerings is the prohibition of pigel, where you think the wrong thing when you're doing one of the services. You're over the prohibition of pigel and nosar, and also it's you can violate nosar when you're there also. So really, in a certain way, it's more similar to nosar. Says the Gemara, okay, when you have that, the way you decide is the wording itself. Since the wording is in plural in those two sections of a kohen who serves when he's impure and a kohen who eats truma when he's impure. So chil derabim may chil derabim adif. When you're weighing things out, that takes precedence, and therefore you're going to learn from truma. Tvul yom sheshimish, someone who's impure. He already did everything he needed to do. Let's say a woman gives birth, which she has to wait a certain amount of time. She waited that time. She has to bring sacrifices. She brought sacrifices. She has to go to the mikvah. She went to the mikvah. All she has to do is wait for sunset. So that you're called a tvul yom. A tvul yom. You already went to the mikvah that day. Tvul toivel, right? To toivel yourself or your is to immerse, and yom is that day. So you did it already. However, you're not allowed to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. You still have to wait. So, how do I know? What's the hint to a tvul yom who serves in the Beis Hamikdash that he's violated a commandment? So the verse, another verse there in Vayikra says that you have to be holy and not profane my service. So what's this referring to? Well, so maybe you'll say it's referring to a kohen who's tameh, who's profaning Hashem's service by serving when he's tameh. Well, if that would be true, we know that already. That's what we just saw. So you don't need that verse to teach you that. It says the Gemara, in Eino Inyan, if it's not talking about a tameh sheshimesh, because that we know already that did not from that verse that we just had a second ago. So then, Tineu Inyan, apply it to the following case of a tvul yom sheshimesh. So now that verse is talking about a tvul yom, someone who's waiting for sunset to be fully pure. So now it's referring to him who serves in the Beis Hamikdash, that it's prohibited. And what's the punishment? The yoliv chilul chilul mitruma. And you learn the same zera shava chilul chilul mitruma. Ma'alahalim misa kamisa. Just like a kohen who eats truma when he is impure gets misa. So to over here, you also a tvul yom who serves also gets misa. Next on the list is a kohen who's lacking the right clothing. Umechusar begadim. We know that if you serve without wearing, you don't wear your uniform to work, you're fired. Yeah, you don't. This is a little worse than fired. Yeah, but umechusar begadim. How you know if you're lacking the right priestly garments that you're going to be liable? Rabbi Yochanan, umatu. So Rabbi Bo said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, umatu b'shmei Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, and they said in the name of Rabbi Elazar and the son of Rabbi Shimon. It says v'chigarta osam avnate. He has to gird, put on his avnate. Avnate is the belt. So now, says the Gemara, a line which has a lot of interesting ramifications to it. It says there when you put it on, so when you put on that garment, then the end of the verse there says, you're going to be a Kohen. So it says the Gemara, Bizman shebigdeim alehem, when they have their priestly garments upon them, kihunasam alehem, their kahuna, their priestlyhood is upon them too. Ein bigdeim alehem, ein kunasam alehem. Mahavalu zarim, and they're like a regular Yisrael. So if you're not wearing your big day kahuna, that means you're like a regular Yisrael now serving the Beis Hamikdash. And what happens if that happens? Amar Mar zar sheshimesh b'misa, a regular Yisrael who serves in the Beis Hamikdash, he gets misa, he gets death in the hands of heaven. So too, a Kohen who's not wearing his priestly garments has now a status of an amazing thing. What clothing can do to a person? You're wearing it, you're a Kohen, you can go. You're not wearing it, you're a... That's right. No casual Friday, yeah. Yeah, doing the very important work. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah. So, umechusar kapara. So now, someone who is impure, He goes through part of his process, except he hasn't brought the korban yet. That person that hasn't brought the korban yet, how do you know if he serves in the Beis Hamikdash? He's going to be also liable. We know I'm a Rav Huna Damakra. Pasuk says v'chiper alav hakohen v'tahera. It says he becomes pure. Yeah, v'tahera. Once he gets atoned, then he's pure. So tahara nichlal shehit meya. So meaning, it sounds like without that atonement, you're not tahor. You're still tameh. You're still impure. What happens when you're impure? Someone who's impure who serves is liable for death. By the way, these words kapara and tahara, atonement and purity. By Yom Kippur it says, Yom Kippur is going to atone for you. Lifnei Hashem titharu. In front of God, you're going to be purified. There's two things: atoning for the sin, taking it off your notebook, and there's something totally different. Not totally different, but there's something called tahara, purity. You want to get back into a relationship with Hashem, even after you X'd off the Aveira. But now you want to be pure. So some idea here. Okay, so you forgot to wash your hands and feet. You walked in, you're busy, you're checking your WhatsApp, and then all of a sudden you go in, you forgot to wash your hands and feet. So how do you know that you're liable? When you go into the Oel Moed, the tent of meeting, yirchetzu mayim below yamusu. Wash your hands and do not die. Sounds like if you don't wash your hands, then you will. So, by the way, the Gemara says in many places that Kohanim is Zrizimheim. Kohanim are very, very careful. Very, it means they're very, it's a alacrity, but it doesn't mean. Yeah, exactly. The word Rashi there says they're really meticulous. So you have to be. Right now, you remember a regular Kohen, except for the big three holidays, he only served a few weeks a year, so he had time to prepare. There's no, it's like a study week and then finals week. Right? There's time, so he had study year basically, and then so now, okay. Next is upruye rosh. You missed. No, I skipped. Sorry, shesuye yain, and one who drinks. This time of year, you drink too much wine. Dechsiv. Yain v'shecher al tesh. Don't drink, and if you do, the end of the verse says below tamusu. So if you don't drink, you won't die. If you will drink, then you will die. Okay. Pruei rosh, you miss your monthly haircut. Now your hair is too long. You can't serve either. Dichsiv rosham lo yigalechu, upara lo yishalechu. So it says that if rosham lo yigalechu, if you didn't shave your head, upara lo yishalechu, and you let it grow out. Uksiv basha, it says afterwards, v'yayin lo yishtu. It says right after the verse is about drinking and serving in the Beis Hamikdash. Iskish pruei rosh l'shesuye yayin. We make a hekesh, we compare these two parts of the Torah. The one about growing your hair too long to the one who gets intoxicated. Just like one who drinks wine is liable for death. So to one who his hair grows out very long, too long, is also liable for death. I believe, great question. I was thinking that. I had a question on this on a test in Sanhedrin 9 years ago. I think it's more than a revius. I believe so. Yeah. I remember not knowing it then either. So yeah. Aval Arel. Okay, so now that okay, good. So those are all the ones liable for death. So now we could breathe. In Arel, a Kohen that doesn't have a bris milah. In Onain, the one who relative dies but he hasn't buried him yet, called an Onain. Or Yoshev, just the one who sits during the service, bi'azhara. They don't get liable for death. They get a prohibition. How do I know? Aral minalan, that one doesn't get a bris milah. It's called an Arel. Amar of Chisda, davar zeh mitoras Moshe Rabbeinu lo lamadnu. We didn't learn this from the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rather, ad sheba Yecheskel ben Buzi. I don't think it means we learned it from him. I think it means he showed us a scriptural source for it. But there is still a negative biblical prohibition. I believe that would be the right way to learn it. Ad sheba Yecheskel ben Buzi. Until Yecheskel ben Buzi came and showed us the verse. V'lamadnu, it says there from Yecheskel, Kol bein nechar arel leiv ha'arel basar lo yavo el mikdashi. Anybody who is a ben necha, like a foreigner, in arel leiv or in arel basar. Now it's interesting. I don't know how do you know if someone's an arel leiv? Usually arel leiv is like to improve your character traits. There's a blockage on your heart. Open up your heart, serve God. But it sounds like the next part is an arel basar, one who's on his flesh is an arel. That means lo yavu el mikdashi. Just interesting. So who's an arel leiv who can't go in? I mean, how do you know? The one who's who's what? And what's the next two words? RLA. What's RLA? Yes. It's all one thing, maybe. A ben nechar, the one who's an idolater, he is one who is uncircumcised heart. Got it. Okay, good. So it's not a second category. It's an extension of the first category of a Jew who serves idol worship. Okay, interesting. Rashi says. My bad. Rashi says. Right, a Kohen Mumar, so a Kohen who goes off and does idol worship, he's referred to an Arel Leiv. Very good. He's referred to as someone whose heart is covered over, and his actions are foreign to God, because that's means ben nechar. A nachri means a non-Jew. Right nowadays, a nachri, so you call a non-Jew. Really means a Christian back in the day, but nowadays you call him a non-Jew. Nechar means foreigner. So one who goes to idol worship becomes a foreigner. His actions become foreign to God. Okay, fine. The Arel Basar, but we need this part of Arel Basar that his foreskin is covered over. He's going to get a bris milah, lo yavu el mikdashi, and if you do it, you can't come. You can't come in. What do you see? It's a negative prohibition to come in. Okay, onain, someone who is has not yet buried the dead, he's called an onain. So minol and tiksiv umina mikdash lo yetze. So this is talking about a Kohen Gadol. Special halakha, very ancient halakha by Kohen Gadol. Even if one of his relatives dies, he can't leave his service. He has to stay. By leaving, he would profane Hashem's service. However, that's a Kohen Gadol. But ha'acher shelo yatsa chilel. But another Kohen who doesn't leave the base of Mikdash when he's an onain, so then he is profaning the service. It's interesting. And onain, meaning what the guy do? Nothing. It sounds like there's a certain status of sadness that cannot be present in the base of Mikdash. A Kohen Gadol is held to the highest standard. He has to have that even when a close relative dies. He's still expected to be on a very high level. He'll be able to serve Hashem. But it's interesting. This is like the first one we see. It's more of an emotional. It sounds like an emotional prohibition. Serving in a state where you're not able, where you're an onain. Yeah. Okay. Why do you say it's only a negative prohibition? Learn out the words chilul chilul from truma. There you get death. Here you should get death. Why is it only a negative prohibition? You didn't learn out here that a Kohen gets it because it says the word chilul by a Kohen. You learned it from an implication. You learned it from the fact that a Kohen Gadol who doesn't leave profanes the service, implied that a regular Kohen, if a regular Kohen, you learn by a Kohen Gadol who, if he leaves, profanes the service. Implication is a regular Kohen who doesn't leave profanes the service. But it doesn't say that, it's not talking about a Kohen. It's talking about a Kohen Gadol. You can't learn a Gzeira Shava off of an implication. Only if it says it explicitly by that person. And here it's learned out of an implication. Therefore, you can't learn it out from a Gzeira Shava. Miksibe begufe and mechlalakas didn't say it about a Kohen. It says it's implied. We learn out that it's an implication. So michlalakas and have davar haba min haklal. It's something which comes from something else, meaning it's an implication. The kol davar haba min haklal ain't done as Gzeira Shava. The rule is anything which comes through an implication, you can't learn that through a Gzeira Shava. Okay, Yoshev, one who's sitting down. How do you know that he's over a negative prohibition? Amar Rav Nachman Amar Kra Kivo Bachar Hashem. Hashem chose from all the tribes Mikol Shavatecha La'amod. They should be standing up and serving God. La'amida Bacharti V'lo Yeshiva. I chose them for them to be standing, and I didn't choose them for them to be sitting. So from there you learn that they are. So 1 second. So Rashi says, and therefore, if they sit, they're not the ones who Hashem chose. So what are they? They're like a regular non-Kohen. The same way if you're not wearing your clothing, you're also like a non-Kohen, and therefore a non-Kohen who serves, he gets Oh, so so then Rashi explains to us why, if you're considered like a zar, like a non-Kohen, you should be killed, not a regular negative prohibition. Yeah, okay, but at the end of the day, you're it's only a negative prohibition. It's not you don't get killed for it.
For super stuff, but every time the pressure came, pressure showed, couldn't put it together because it was like two metal guy, and it was one that didn't get it out. I just got one on the side of the head, and I got my, like, it sounds like, I don't think it's
We have a whole year to practice, whatever it is. Yeah. We're expected to step up to the service. So yeah, okay, fine. So balmum, okay, so one who has a blemish. I think there's 24, but the number of blemishes that would invalidate a Kohen from serving in the base of Mikdash. So balmum, Rebbe Omer b'mizah chamum b'tzhara. Rebbe said you get killed. The Chachamim said you only get a negative prohibition. My time of the Rebbe, how does everybody know that you get killed? The verse there says in Vayikra, you come in. Don't come in if you have a blemish. And it says the word there, yechalel. You're going to profane my service if you come in. And b'yalev chilul chilumi truma. You learn out from truma, a Kohen who eats truma when he's impure. That's how Rebbe knows you're liable for death in the hands of heaven. Malahol lamisa kan lamisa. Says the Gemara saying it the third or fourth time. V'yalev chilul chilumi nosar. Why don't you learn that a Baal Mum, a Kohen has a blemish? Learn that out, that word chilul from nosar, someone who leaves over the food overnight. Malaholan bekaris, avkan bekaris. You leave it over overnight, you get karis. So here you get karis. So now, when you're weighing out how to learn from two things, you find out what's more similar. Mistabrami truma havle lamela. It's more logical to learn out from truma. Why more logical? Because shekain psul haguf. Truma is a kohen who's tameh. It's talking about the person themselves. So to here he has a blemish. So that's a invalidation on the person's body. No sar is on the food. So psula guf. Says why? Well, think about it. A Baal Mum who's serving in the Beit HaMikdash and no star that's performed in the Beit HaMikdash, Shekain Kodesh, involving holy sacrifices, Panim, you're going inside the Beit HaMikdash, you're both involved in the inner services. Pigul, you both have the prohibition of pigul. Vinosar, any of the prohibition also of leaving it overnight. So that's why you should learn from Nosar. Says the Gemara, Ella. Really, let's learn out from mitame shishimish, from someone who is impure who serves in the Beit HaMikdash. So learn from there. Gamar psula guf, and at that, so a Baal Mum, a blemished Kohen, is going to be more comparable to a impure Kohen. Why? Psula guf, they're both invalidations on the body, and he has kodesh pnim pigul v'nosar. He's involved in sacrifices inside the Beit HaMikdash. He has a prohibition of pigul, and he has a prohibition of nosar. So, mikodesh pnim pigul v'nosar. From they both have all of those in common. So that's how you would know that you'll be liable for death. You'll learn it out from the Kohen who's tameh, the Kohen who is tameh, who serves in the Beit HaMikdash. That's more comparable than truma and then nosar. Yeah. The Rabbanan, what about the Rabbanan? They said it's only a negative prohibition. Amar Kra, bo below balmum. It says by truma. It's coming to exclude one who has a balmum. Only him, the Kohen who's impure, but not someone who has a blemish. The Rabbanan hold that the verse excludes it, and therefore it's not going to be liable for death. it's only going to be liable for negative prohibition. Okay. Yeah, okay. Hazid b'me'ila. So once again, me'ila always refers to when you do something inadvertently, when you benefit from holding things inadvertently. That's where it says me'ila. And there you have to bring a korban and pay a fifth. However, if you're hazid b'me'ila, it means you benefit from holiness on purpose, advertently. You know it's holy and you do it anyways. What happens to you? Rabbi Omer b'misa. It's going now by a regular person. Rabbi says you get killed. The Chachamim Omrim only b'azhara, only by a negative prohibition. My time of the Rabbi Amar Rabbi Bo Gamar Chet Chet Mitruma. You learn out the word Chet Chet Mitruma. Malahon Bisakan Lamisa. Just like there it's death, so here it's death. Rabbanan Amri Amar Kra Bo Below B'Meila. It says only Bo. It's coming to exclude. It says Bo by Truma, coming to exclude Meila. Just a quick food for thought. So a bunch of cases earlier, you learn out from Truma. These cases, you say it's referring to only Bo, to him, the Kohen who's coming that eats Truma, and not these people. And how do you know what's excluded and how do you know what's included? Just I don't know, it's interesting. Bo below Balmum, Bo below Meila, Truma's coming to exclude these people, while other people are coming to include. Okay, fine. I guess there you have Xer Shava. So it can't come into okay. Fine. Zar Shishimish Mikdash. A Zar, a non-Kohen who serves in the base of Mikdash. Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Nemar Khan Vazar Akar if you must. It says a Zar, a non-Kohen who comes in gets killed. V'nemar laholan kol hakarev, kol hakarev al Mishkan Hashem Yamos. So the Brisa says, it says a Zar Karev you must. That's one verse. Another verse it says anybody who comes close to the Mishkan who's a non-Kohen will get killed. Malaholan b'dei shemayim, mafkan b'dei shemayim. There it's referring to death in the hands of heaven. So to here it's referring to death in the hands of heaven. Rabbi Kiva Omer Nemar Khan v'Hazar Hakarev Yumas and Nemar Laholan v'Hanavi Hahu Al Cholim Hahu. So here it says Hazar Hakarev Yumas, he'll get killed. But then it has a Navi, a prophet, or a dreamer who then I think convinced people to do avodah zarah, right? Right. It's referring to Navi who gets everyone to do avodah zarah. So just like there he gets killed, so to here he gets killed. He gets stoned. So to here she gets stoned. Second opinion. Third opinion. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer Malahalan bechenek Afkan bechenek. So now three opinions. A non-Kohen who goes into the base of Mikdash and serves, what does he get? So first opinion says, Rabbi Shmuel says, it's death in the hands of heaven. Rabbi Akiva says it's learned out from a prophet who I don't know if it's just a prophet who he himself is a Navi Sheker, but I thought it was someone who gets people to go off. Yeah, it is. Yeah. A false prophet who convinces people to go and do avodah zarah. Rabbi Akiva learns from there it's skila, and then the third opinion is Rabbi Yochanan says no. You also learn out from the prophet, but he gets strangulation. He doesn't get skila. So now, the Mai Kamifligi Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva. What's that first machlokas? Do you just say he's liable to death of heaven? Or do you learn out from a prophet who gets people to go off and do avodah zarah? Rabbi Akiva suffered done in yumas ain't done in yumas mi yamus. The word yumas is pronounced yumas in two places. And in one of the places it says yamus. You pronounce it differently. So Rabbi Akiva says, done in yumas mi yumas. By the Navi it says yumas. By the Zar it says yumas. So we learn out from there that one will get stoned, and you don't learn yumas from yamus. Yamus was by Korach. It said there by Korach that they all got killed. So there it says the word yumas. So don't learn from Korach yumas. There it says yamus. Don't learn from there. It says yamus. And these two places says yumas. So it's a more similar. The words are more similar. So therefore you can learn Xer Shava. Rami Shmuel Savar, he says no. Done in hedyot mi hedyot. The ain't done in hedyot mi navi. Which you're learning out to a regular non-Kohen. So it's more comparable a regular non-Kohen to a regular non-Kohen, and not a regular non-Kohen from a prophet. He's a hedyot. He's not a hedyot. He's a prophet. So Rabbi Akiva says maybe one time he was a prophet, but now that he got people to go and do avodah zarah, there's no more simple man, simple, a simple person than one who gets everyone to do avodah zarah. So just because he was a prophet, but he lost that status badly when he got everyone to go do avodah zarah. Therefore, that doesn't bother Rabbi Akiva. He's not bothered by the fact that that the guy is a navi. Says now that he got everyone to go off, he's not navi anymore. He just has like a regular person. Therefore, he is comparable to a regular non-Kohen who serves. Okay. Now, b'mai kamiflagi Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, they both learn out from a prophet who gets everyone to do avodah zarah. However, one says skila, one says chenek. What's that machlokas? So that's a machlokas b'plukah Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbanan. That's a machlokas Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. What's that machlokas? Is we had the Tanya Nabi Shehidiach Beskila, a prophet that wants to go off to do avodah zarah gets stoned. Rabbi Shimon Omer b'chenek. Rabbi Shimon says he gets chenek, he gets strangulation. So the machlokas Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri here is a reflection of the machlokas, the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon. Says the Gemara, what does that mean? Rabbi Akiva holds that he gets skila, ha'anan tanan, but we learned Rabbi Akiva Omer b'chenek. Pay Aleph on the base. Rabbi Akiva says that the Navi gets people to go off. He's liable for strangulation and not for stoning. So you have two Rabbi Akivas seem to contradict each other. Says the Gemara, you're right. Trei Tanai, it's two Tanaim, the Aliba de Rabbi Akiva. And they're both going according to Rabbi Akiva. There's a machlokus in Rabbi Akiva's students, what he really held. So Masnisi and Rabbi Shimon, the Mishnah is Rabbi Shimon, the Aliba de Rabbi Akiva, Brisa is the Rabbanon, the Aliba de Rabbi Akiva, and the Brisa are the rabbis in the name of Rabbi Akiva. But at the end of the day, it's all according to Rabbi Akiva. Just the question is, what did Rabbi Akiva hold? What did he himself hold? Hadron Lach Elan Nisrafin. That we end off Elan Nisrafin, and we start Eluhain Hanechnakim. So turn the pages. We'll do the Mishnah. The ones who get strangulation, and after this, starting Monday, Tuesday, we get to everyone who gets Olam Haba. We'll just start Eluhain Hanechnakim. The ones who get strangulation. Hamaka Aviv Ima, one who hits their parents. The Hagon of Nefesh B'Yisrael, one who kidnaps. Bezakin Mamre, one who disobeys the law of the high court. Alpi Bezdin, V'Navi Sheker, a false prophet. V'Masnaba B'Shem Avodas Kachavim, one who prophesies in the name of idol worship. V'Habal Eish Ish, one who has relations with an Eish Ish, with a lady who's married. V'Zome Bas Kohen, Uboala, and one who goes and falsifies someone who had relations with a Bas Kohen. They're found to be false prophets. They get the same punishment as the husband of the Bas Kohen and not of her, and that's going to be in strangulation. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.